Information Station 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I used to, when I was younger, work in factories, and actually what I'm about to tell you isn't really any different than working in radio. And my role in it is really no different than working in a factory when I was a younger guy. But here's my factory story. I worked in a factory, and in this factory we made things out of sheet metal. And you learn how to do it. You learn how to work the machines and fold the metal, and it's amazing that you can take these flat pieces of sheet metal and actually make usable, sellable things. And it's the sellable part that I want to focus on. So and of course in the place I worked at, you could be dirty. You could have an open shirt. You could have sneakers. You didn't have to be dressed up all that well. Your hair could be a mess. It didn't matter. But on the other side of that wall, where the offices were, that's where the salespeople were. And those salespeople would sometimes come back and chat with us. And there was one guy in particular that I became friendly with. And he one time was looking at us folding sheet metal to become things. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Gosh, I don't know how you do that. That is amazing." And then I said to him, "I don't know how you sell it. That's amazing." and you know what? And the guy who we never saw, the guy in the big office, the big boss, the guy who actually signed the check, he's really the brains behind the whole thing, because he knew how to take people who could make things and put them together with people who knew how to sell things and make the whole company work. Mm-hmm. Same thing with radio. You and I create a product by making a show.
Yes.
And the salespeople take this and sell it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do what they do. And if we had to switch roles, I don't know how good they would do at what we do.
Yes.
But I'd be awful at what they do.
Me too.
Unless our next guest is right. And unless maybe we can actually learn that part of what goes on in this world. Corrine Sandler has written a very eye-opening book. And I didn't mean to make a pun there, because the book is called Wake Up or Die.
Yeah.
She is the founder and CEO of something called Fresh Intelligence Research Corporation, and there was a battle strategy known as the art of war 2,000 years ago that was used to win wars, and I guess you can apply some of that to business. Mm-hmm. So one of these days, Robin, maybe I'll just branch out and open my own radio station.
There you go.
And be not only the guy making the product, but the guy selling the product, and see how well I do. I've always depended on the sellers, and they've always depended on the creators. And
that's right.
And I don't mean that in any
have to go
lofty way.
hand.
I just mean it, in the realistic, balanced way.
Yeah,
Corrine, good morning. What a wonderful book you've written, and you give me so much optimism about me being able to do what I think I can't do. So, good morning, Corrine.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Robin. Thank you for having me on your station.
You got a wonderful accent. Where are you from?
I am in Toronto, Canada, but originally I was actually born in South Africa. So I've been here 20 years, but you never lose the accent.
Oh, okay. So you got the South African and then the A every once in a while, eh?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, and so, Corrine, is it cold up there? We want to focus on the subject, but I'm always curious.
No, we've had a great summer. People don't realize, but Toronto has extremes. We have extreme winters and extreme summers, so it's very warm out there today.
Oh, is it? Okay, well, that's good to know. It's kind of warm here too. So tell me about how did I do, by the way, in the intros? Did you hear what I said? I hope you did. I've always felt like I can't really do what your book makes me feel like maybe I can do. Mm-hmm.
Well, the book Wake Up or Die really was, as you said, is based on the art of war. And it's really about, you don't need to fight to win business battles today. It's really just about having the right intelligence at the right time and using it in the right way. And that's really what Sun Tzu, this ancient philosopher, did many 2,000 years ago. So absolutely, with the right intelligence and the right skill set, I believe you can absolutely be an entrepreneur, branch out and make things happen for yourself.
People do have to have that air of respect for each other, though. They just can't go in like gangbusters and have a holier-than-thou attitude and think everything's going to be fine.
For sure not. I mean, absolutely. Business is truly a battlefield out there, and there has to be a certain amount of, respect for competitors. But you need to be resilient and you need to be a visionary. And what I always say is that, you need to be a little bit of a rebel, a little bit of a risk taker.
Now, whenever we hear success stories, and I want you to tell us some of them because you also cover some not so successful stories, but we always hear about success stories, and it sounds like there's always somebody who is the counterpart to the other somebody. I think Steve Jobs and Steve Jobs. I always call him Jobs. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. I think they were kind of like that, weren't they?
In terms of being success stories, are you saying?
Well, in terms of their success being attributed to the fact that one was being very creative in the ideas for the product, and the other one was being very creative in how to sell the product.
Oh, you have to, absolutely. I mean, creativity, doesn't, I always say, innovation is an idea you can act on. So you can have the greatest idea and be the greatest creative person, but if you can't bring that to market and action it, it's absolutely useless. So, it's one thing being a creative thinker and a visionary, but you have to be able to, take it to market and make it realistic and not just be a blue sky thinker.
A perfect example that I just came to mind out of the blue is Stephen Foster, because this is the songwriter, because he died broke, and then somebody found all of his songs after he died and figured out how to make money with them. Too bad he didn't figure it out in his lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Without a doubt, and that really goes to just explain, how. I mean, he was kind of, the father of American music at the time, but as you said, he wasn't able to capitalize on his brilliant musical talent, and when I say capitalize, I mean really, commercialize it and bring it to market.
And in fact, that's the Beatles story too. I don't think any of the Beatles were really that business savvy, but they hooked up with this guy named Brian Epstein, if you know that story. Mm-hmm. But he was their manager, and he was the guy who sold them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
So I'm guessing it happened. But does the book teach? Like, would Stephen Foster have died a richer man had he read your book?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, it definitely doesn't give you absolute, tactical ways in which to do it, because I don't believe that any business book should tell somebody what to do. I think we should provide experiences and advice that you can apply, because every business executive and decision-making process is different. So it does for sure absolutely tell you, how you can win. It tells you why companies fail. It tells you, why you need a business intelligence plan. It tells you the type of data you need, emotional intelligence and the importance of that, and the holy grail, for today's organizational leaders. So it does teach you a huge amount of, give you a huge amount of knowledge which you can access. But the tools, I honestly believe that everybody needs to build the tools themselves based on reading and understanding what they need to do.
And that's one of the scary parts, because sometimes people aren't comfortable going out of their familiarity.
Yes, absolutely, and they're not. And complacency leads to failure. So, I honestly say that, and with every organization, and I've used a few examples in my book, how major, companies became complacent, and they're not in existence today because of that. And any business today, sorry, Larry, go
No,
ahead.
that's okay. Well, we're coming up on a break, so I was just trying to break in so that we could do that. But I do have an example right here in our own backyard. We have Disney World here. And Disney World's been successful since, I guess, 1972, and of course before that, Disneyland. And I think part of that drive to not become complacent is competition. Universal Studios and Busch Gardens also opened up, and SeaWorld. So all of a sudden, they couldn't be complacent because there was a new kid on the block, and it's almost like the two forces, or three, however many there are, like the Pepsi Coke thing, and anybody who has a competitor, you try harder because somebody's trying to beat you. We need to take a little break. I am looking forward to hearing more, though. Corrine Sandler is our guest. Her book is called Wake Up or Die. I can't wait to hear more. Business battles are won with foresight. You either have it Or you don't. We'll find out what she means by that when we come back and actually get some insight into the book itself in just a bit. This is The Source, WOCA.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, sunshine mixing with clouds. A couple of drenching thunderstorms around this afternoon. The high 86 to 90. There'll be a thunderstorm in the area this evening, then partly cloudy overnight, low 72 to 76. For tomorrow, times of clouds and sun with a couple of afternoon and evening thunderstorms around, high 88 to 92. For Sunday, partly sunny with a stray afternoon thunderstorm, high 90 to 94. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
On this episode of What Not to Do, brought to you by
Mike's got plumbing. If water runs through it, we do it.
Okay, easy. All right, set her down. Over there. Easy.
What are you doing?
Oh, honey, you're home early. Nothing.
Really? Because it looks to me like you've torn up the entire yard with this giant tractor.
Not all of it. There is a small section over there I didn't
That's
get.
not even funny. Why are you tearing up my yard?
Well, the sprinkler head broke.
So you thought it was a good idea to fix it with a huge tractor?
Well, not at first, but then when I tried to fix it, I hit the main line. Thought it would be a good
You
idea
thought
if...
all of this was a good idea? Here's an idea. Why don't you just call Mike Scott Plumbing? It's that easy. In fact, let me help you out with that. 237-2888.
But it's the weekend.
I know. They don't charge extra for nights, weekends, or holidays. Remember the commercials? If water runs through it, they do it. And they're already on their way. So get this monstrosity out of my yard.
on next week's episode of What Not to Do.
A crane? Really?
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Stay informed on everything going on in the Villages with the Village Spectator newspaper. The Village Spectator is exclusively devoted to the Villages with news, commentary, and more. And yes, they have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask is that you tell them where you heard about them. Call Tom's Picks at 804-1223 and pick up your copy of the Village Spectator today.
Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online.
News Talk 1370 WOCA invites you to discover your full business potential. News Talk Radio is the perfect environment for your advertising. WOCA's News Talk format pinpoints information-hungry, better educated, high-income adults. So use us to talk to them. Call 732-8000. 732-8000. We're Ocala News Talk Radio. News Talk 1370 WOCA.
All right, thank you. 18 minutes after 11 o'clock, and Corrine Sandler is on the phone. She's the founder and CEO of Fresh Intelligence Research Corporation. Her book is called Wake Up or Die. We've been having a great conversation with Corrine. She's up in Toronto, Canada.
Yes.
And she's got the book that helps us understand how we might be able to take these businesses that we're all part of and make them a little bit more successful with a little bit of philosophical approach that dates 2,000 years ago to The Art of War, something written by Sun Tzu. Where was Sun Tzu from, Corrine? Where is that? Is he from China?
China, that's correct. Yes, he was an ancient Chinese philosopher who then became a great warrior and soldier.
And you figured out a way to connect his approach to battling a war and make it work in our approach to running a business.
That's correct. I mean, when I used to read The Art of War in many transcribes of it, when I was growing up as a teenager, and its application in a modern economic business setting today is so applicable. And I was quite surprised that nobody had taken this brilliant writing and made it into something that could really help many decision makers and businessmen and women around the world today.
So let me ask you this: are we a little bit skittish of defeating the enemy? In other words, in war the enemy is going to be gone or defeated or become us? Do we want to do that with our business? Do I want, as a radio station, to defeat all the other radio stations?
No, I don't like to use the word defeat. I would say, you'd like to be better, smarter, quicker, faster.
Oh, that's
whichever
easy.
word you want to use there, right? So that's easy, absolutely, for you guys. So, it really is about understanding, the competitive situation, understanding, what your key strengths are, and having the intelligence, the insights, and the foresight to constantly grow, move your brand, your product, your radio station, your organization, whatever it is, forward, with the right amount of knowledge, as opposed to just going after and attacking your competitors. Because at the end of the day, nobody will win there. It's your common price war scenario. If everyone just lowers and lowers and lowers their price, businesses will not survive, and the consumer will only be the one that wins in the end.
That is really true. And another trend I see that I often wonder if it's just running against the wind, to make it a nicer term, is using like Facebook and Twitter, and like, this is the way to become more successful, is to constantly post things on those social sites. And I often think, is that really that effective? I mean, it seems like it would make more sense if I actually walked next door and shook the guy's hand and said, hey, here's what I'm doing. Would you like to have some?
Right. Well, I think what social media and, the digital world and the internet has done today is it's allowed very, small boutique companies, which I call the Davids, to compete with the Goliaths, the big corporations, because you no longer need, the $100,000 or the millions of dollars to be able to, engage in mass advertising. Today you can do it on a very small budget and reach massive amounts of people and create mass awareness through social networks. So it's definitely opened up a whole new, dilemma for the big corporations, and allowed, small companies to compete, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
You work with Fortune 500 companies. When the companies get to be in that category, do they still need help?
They do. Of course they do. I mean, if not, they need more help than ever, because they're not agile, they're not flexible, they're really large. So, every organization needs to engage in foresight, intelligence, research, without a doubt, to continually grow. And, today, economic times are changing at the speed of light. There's new technology every hour. Consumer tastes are changing on a daily basis. There's economic turmoil, and you have to keep abreast and on top of that, no matter what size company you are.
So a company should constantly be reinventing itself then?
I think a company should constantly be looking at innovative ways to improve themselves, as well as offer new dynamic products and services to changing customer and consumer needs. Yes.
You talked about the Davids versus the Goliaths, and usually the Davids don't have a whole lot of money. But they have some, and it's always a question: what do I don't want to blow my money on something, so everything is a risk. Does the book help us understand which risks are the ones that are worth risking our money on?
It does, yes, to a certain extent it does. I have actually an entire chapter devoted to what I call the David and Goliath scenario. I also have a bolt theory, which I talk about, which tells readers how to engage in innovation in a very cost-effective way. I also have a lot of case studies, real-life examples where companies that have been very small and found a niche and have overcome, major category innovation where the larger companies could not do that.
So that's probably one of the problems of a company, is that they try to service everyone when they should just focus on what their really strengths are.
Yes, the focus of one, for sure. I mean, absolutely. Keep it simple, focus on what you're great at, and continue to develop that further.
So how do you become a bigger company then? And I've often thought about this, like with McDonald's. They started out with cheeseburgers or hamburgers, right?
The best.
And now they have so many things, and they're gigantic. But if you're focusing, like, let's say you're an art store, and the only thing you sell is paintings of landscapes. Okay, and you become the landscape outlet, right? And all of a sudden you realize, I got some people wanting seascapes. I'll throw a few of them in there, and I got a few people wanting sculptures. I'll throw a few of them in there. Do you start to water down your specialty-ness?
Yes, I think you have to. I mean, using your example that you gave, the example of an art store that's specializing in landscape paintings, they can, what we call product proliferation in terms of proliferating new products. Go ahead and do seascapes, go ahead and do portraits, stick to paintings. But now you're starting to bring in sculptures, and everyone will stand back and look, hang on a second. This art store is really known for incredible paintings. Now they're bringing in artists. Are they, you almost become what I call a jack of all, but a master of none. Core competency.
Are there two kinds of companies out there? One where they need to build up so much where they're so successful and then they sell it to keep all the profits. And then there's a second company that they build up to be successful, but they just want to continue on?
Sure, I mean that's usually up to the shareholders of the organization or the principals and what their vision is. A lot of companies that have exit strategies and all they want to do is build a company and build products that are saleable and then sell and move on. And others really are there more for the passion, changing the world, really making a dent in the universe. To use Steve Jobs' a brilliant quotation.
Mm-hmm.
In the quotes in the book, you talk about the 9 situations, and you derive your part of the book to the writings of Sun Tzu. And it sounds like what he's writing about. I'm assuming Sun Tzu is a guy. I don't know. Was he a guy?
He was. Yes.
Okay. So, but it sounds like he was talking about the battleground itself, like whether it was mountainous or desert, etc. And so that landscape of in the business world, we have to understand as well, and maybe be able to define it and understand how that affects us.
We do, and if you look at the 9 situations that he referred to, and what I've done is I've defined each one as he did in terms of, and using his actual words in terms of war, in terms of a battle, and then I've translated what that actually means in terms of a business environment. So just to give you an example, one of the 9 situations is he calls facile ground, which he means when you go into hostile territory, he calls that facile ground. And when you've crossed the border, burn your boats and your bridges to make it clear to everyone that you have no intention of going back. So, that really talks about fearless, courageousness, being detached, being disciplined. And I used the example there of Southwest Airlines, and, every industry, the airline industry was just plummeting in terms of plummeting profits with high oil prices. But Southwest Airlines demanded of itself a profit every year, and while the entire industry was losing money. So they ignored the hostile economy, they ignored the hostile territory, and they made a lot of changes. I mean, I talk a lot about them in my book, but that's an example of how you can take ancient military tactics and turn them into a modern economic business setting and learn from it.
Were you nervous writing this book and putting it out there? Because this is a huge responsibility you have to help others believe in themselves.
It was, of course, always, when you put something out there, it's always kind of contentious, and some people will agree, and it's opinionated. But I do have quite a dogmatic style of writing, and I said this is what I believe in, and I'm happy if other people do not agree with it. It's great because everyone's allowed their own opinion. But I was confident as well in terms of the writing.
It is, for the listener, a book that will pump you up. It is a book that will make you believe in yourself again. It is a book that will make you believe in the business that you once believed in. Maybe you started to doubt your own business. This will bring you back to where you need to be. And if you're just starting, it'll really help jumpstart what you're trying to do. I have a copy of the book right here. It's called Wake Up or Die. If you want the copy I have, go ahead and call me right now, 622-WOCA, and I'll leave your name on it, and you can pick it up. The rest of us have to go buy it. Corrine, how do we do that? Do you have a website?
I do. It is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, of course. You will probably get it within a couple of business days. And my website is CorrineSandler.com, where for any of your readers, you're welcome to freely download Chapter 1.
Oh, excellent. And just to make it easy for the listeners, the website you just gave is on the guest list. So go to the guest list and you'll be able to get it. Real quickly, good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Andy.
Andy, do you know where we are?
Yes.
Okay, Andy, the book will be waiting for you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Well, there you go. That's how quick it's going to go, Corrine. Thank you so much for being on the air with us today.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Robin.
All right, we'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The officer who shot an unarmed black teen in Ferguson, Missouri has been identified as Darren Wilson, an officer for 6 years. Police report saying the 18-year-old who was fatally shot was a possible suspect in a convenience store robbery.